Let me make sure I'm live. I think I am, y'all. I think I am. Let's make sure, because we got to make sure we don't. Listen, y'all know if this is your first time here, I tell y'all all the time, I am a one woman show, and so because I am a one woman show, not only am I the engineer and the videographer and the sound check girl and the person who put together everything. I'm the producer. I'm the everything. Okay, I am the everything for this channel. So while I get myself together, hello and welcome. You are watching Hood Parenting on YouTube, and I am your host, Yashika Foster. In this particular episode of Hood Parenting on Fridays is what I call the Resiliency Chair. Listen, I don't really know if I like this lipstick today, but we're going to go ahead and keep going, okay? Because we are live, okay? And so if you've never been to the Resiliency Chair is a live coaching space for addressing truths and breaking us out of survival mode, right? Survival patterns that we've been doing, that we've been told, that, and here we also focus on our mindset, we focus on our resiliency, and we focus on self actualization because I myself am a self actualization and resiliency coach. And so if you are looking for someone to get you to your who you are supposed to be in this world, then honey, you let me know. And if this is your first time here, hello and welcome. And do your girl a favor and subscribe, share, leave a comment, do whatever you got to do. Let me know that you were here. Okay. Don't just be in here and don't give me no type of knowledge, nothing like that. Let me know you're here. Listen, today, this is episode 2, by the way, of the Resiliency Chair. And so, this particular episode, we are addressing how to make peace with a past that won't apologize. Oh, listen, this is one of those subjects that when I think about how people tend to need closure in certain situations or in certain relationships or in certain things. Okay. And I think that this is especially true when it comes to relationships. And I know it's true when it comes to jobs. Okay. You can like say for example, you're at a job and you decide that or something happens and you're laid off for whatever reason. You're terminated, you're laid off. Okay. It's one of those things where you want an explanation. You want a justifiable explanation as to why you are being terminated, why you are being laid off, why you are whatever. Same thing if you get pulled over by the cops. You want to know a reason why, right? And then while you are busy trying to get that understanding, it needs to be something that you feel like you can agree to. But that's not how it always works, right? When we're talking about making peace with the past, we're talking about when it comes to people and places and situations. And sometimes you have to walk away from those things without getting the closure. When it comes to closure, I feel like that's something that we tell ourselves that we need in order to have validation for whatever it was that came to an end. But what I also notice about closure, when it's said to us in any kind of way, in any type of situation by anyone, when we hear the word, this is terminated, or this is in, or this is have to come to an end, even when we hear the reasoning behind it, we still have a problem with the explanation. So if we still have a problem with the explanation, then why do we wait for closure? Why do we wait for an apology that may not never come? And why do we wait there in order for us to move on? Because a lot of times while we're waiting, that's exactly what we're doing. We're waiting. And so because we're waiting, we're stuck right there in that particular situation. And so when it comes to you moving forward and you healing and things like that, you can't do those things if you're stuck still waiting on some type of closure or some type of resolution or some type of this was the reason why this happened. Because I'm gonna tell you, you may not ever get it. You may not never get it. Let me tell y'all a story real quick. So when I transitioned out of the military, I was a hairstylist at this hair salon on the military installation. Okay. Now, I took the job for many reasons. Okay. One of the reasons being it had been years since I had worked in any type of, business in a hair salon. I had been still doing the kitchen beautician, although I was a, licensed beautician and all that. But me being active duty military, I didn't really have the capacity to be set to a schedule to a salon. So for me, it was like, listen, I'll do kitchen, I'll do hair out of my kitchen. So I was a kitchen beautician. Well, when I decided to retire from the military, I was going into the beauty business full time, which means that I had my own business going. It was called Coiffure et Maquillage, which means hair and makeup in French. I was doing makeup for weddings and proms and balls and things like that. And I was doing hair for those things as well. Well, to also, as I'm going through these things, because I'm building my business myself, it was something that said to me, Yashika, you know what? You need to get yourself back in a salon because you've been, and so you can see what's changed, so we can see, some of the new techniques, some of the new styles, whatever. And so by me living in the area or working on the fort, I knew that they were hiring me right away. All right. Now the money was nothing. Let's be clear there. The money was nothing. I'll be lucky if I made, $2,000 in a month. However, I did it because again, I needed the experience. I needed let me get back into the salon. Well, what I did not know was that the woman who operated the salon, the manager, she had some things going on with herself and some girls, and her turnover rate was crazy. I had no idea about any of this. Well, I'm working at this salon for about 6 weeks. Okay. Now, I know that I was doing well because the numbers said I was doing well. All right. I was like one of the top three grossing ones in there. Now, partly that because I was also a retiree, and a lot of the soldiers that came in there, they would literally come in there and sit down and talk to me because they wanted to get some mentorship. And so I had the numbers, and that wasn't the problem. There was no mistakes made. There was nothing. Well, I don't, like I said, her turnover rate was crazy. But more of the story is one day she calls me into one of the offices and she had another woman there with her. And I knew it was some bullshit going on this day. Okay. I knew it, something in my spirit told me it was some bullshit going on. Well, she called me in there and told me that she has to let me go. And I didn't understand it. I didn't even know why. And so that was something that I kept on asking her, like, what did I do? I didn't understand what I did. And I was like, is it this? Is it that? Because I know for a fact that my numbers say that I'm doing well. I know for a fact that I haven't had any issues with any clients, no nothing. Like like I've been here 6 weeks. Like what happened? Well, there was a lot of things going on that I did not even know that was going on behind closed doors that was out of my pay range because again, I was just there for my own purposes. I didn't give a crap about none of that because as far as I'm concerned, I was working too hard for the money anyway. But again, I was there because I needed to learn some things, right? My goal was I was only going to be there 90 days anyway. Okay. And so she didn't know that, but I guess she said, I'm gonna get you before you get us. Okay. So she got me at the halfway mark. So she terminated me under something called a just clause. Now, because or just cause, which means that she has the right to fire me just because she can. In other words, she doesn't have to give me a reason. She doesn't have to give me any of those things. Well, I had no idea anything about a just cause because, again, I had just retired out of the military. And so, because I had just retired out of the military, it had been years since I had worked in any type of establishment. So, I knew nothing about a just cause. Well, that was something that I kept on asking her, like, can you tell me why are you firing me? And she was like, no, I don't have to tell you a reason. I mean, because she didn't have one, but literally, also, if they terminate you under a certain time here in the state of Virginia, they can terminate you under something called just cause. And that's what she did. And my thing was, I'm asking the question, is there something that I can work on? Because then that way I know moving forward. Like, in other words, I wanted to know where I got terminated because like I said, I didn't know all this stuff was going on in the back. I didn't know that her reasoning for terminating me had nothing to do with me. I didn't know none of that. All I knew is that at that point, at being 6 weeks, There was nothing that she was obligated to tell me. There was nothing that she was mandated to say in the termination letter. None of that. Okay. Now, fast forward about a month later, I ended up getting a job in a salon where I was actually the manager. And then shortly after that, she lost her job. She had been there for years, but you can't keep on doing things and don't think that. Well, anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the more of the story of me telling you that is just that in my mind, I really wanted to know, like, I needed that closure. Because it really, for me, listen, and I tell people this all the time. I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I'm very transparent about my feelings, about my emotions. Listen, I don't care. I'm one of them people that tell you how I feel. That way, there's no questions. Listen, if my future husband is out there listening, okay, you need to know that I don't have no problem with telling you how I feel. There's never any issue where you have to guess about what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, or nothing. So I'm going to tell you. So I say this to say that when I was terminated, that hurt my feelings. And so because of it, there was one of those things where I needed to have closure. But what I recognized about closure was that was me trying to control the narrative, me trying to control the situation. That's all control is. Control is fear that we have within ourselves of the outcome. So, in other words, for any time we need closure on something, anytime we feel like I can't get past this until something happens or until this gives, that's our own issues. That's our own thing, because no matter what that person tells you, you're not going to find anything to relate to it. Like if she had told me, Yashika, you don't do hair very well when she got fired, like if that was the reason, which we know that wasn't it. Let's be clear there. Okay. I just did this hairstyle real quick too before I came on this live. Okay. But let's just be clear here. If she had told me, Yashika, you don't do hair very well, I mean, I wouldn't have listened to her. Okay. But at least I would have had it in my mind, well, okay, well, maybe I need to check this out, and maybe I need to, right? Because there's a part of me that always wants to do better. Okay. Again, that was me trying to control the narrative, because see, now I can control any future outcome. Now, is that a bad thing? No, I don't think it's a bad thing. That's me wanting to be better. But at the same time, I didn't need that to continue on with what I did next. And once I got up, and it took me about 48 hours or so to get it together, because it was just for my own purposes. I immediately applied for another job and immediately got in a management position in a hair salon, a whole different hair salon. And so I was like, see, girl, see, I told you I was amazing. You just didn't know it, because I went right into a management position. Okay. Now it wasn't worth it, the management position. Okay. But that ain't about, we ain't talking about that, neither here. No, now that we're not talking about that here now. Okay. That story, when I went to that management position, first of all, that one paid less than the first job. Okay. But again, that's not why we're here. We are here to talk about how to make peace with a past that just won't apologize. And this, like I said, is pertaining to people, situations, or things. Okay. And what I mean by situations or things or people, even when it comes to a relationship, right? You can have, like, I've been ghosted before. You know what? Let me drink some water before I continue this story. hmm So I remember right when we came out of COVID, right? I said, okay, Yashika, you're going to start dating again. Okay. Because I hadn't. So I said, girl, you're going to start dating again. So I decided to start dating again. So I ended up meeting this guy who came up, or should I say, came down from where he was to where I live for a day so that we can go on a date. Okay. Now, we go on this date. He gets a hotel room, the whole 9 yards. He goes on a date, because again, I'm not doing anything. Well, I'm not staying in a hotel room. I'm not doing any of that. Okay. I don't know you, sir. I don't know you, sir. We came out here to go out. Okay. Now, because we were just coming up out of COVID, this was like 2021, or this going into the spring, summer of 2021. So so things were still just trying to still open back up. People were still trying to get into the swing of things, right? One time come, and I thought, because even he said it, okay, these weren't just my arrogant Mine. This wasn't just my arrogant thoughts of saying, Yashika, you are amazing, because I think that about myself. Okay, that wasn't it. It was literally me saying to myself, he said, Yashika, he was like, you a cool chick, whatever, whatever, whatever. Next thing I know, we go back to his hotel. Okay, now it wasn't none of that. I promise you, because my thing was it ended night. We could have a drink at the bar, whatever. But come to find out the bar was closed. So we sat and we watched a little TV or whatever, And then after that, I got up. It was probably, matter of fact, before midnight. Before midnight, I was back in my car on my way home. Okay. Next thing I know, this gentleman, I talked to him that night when I got home. Hey, I'm home. Thank you. I'll meet you tomorrow for brunch, because by him still being in town, we were going to meet the next day for brunch, right? Mm-hmm. So I call him the next day, and I go to voicemail. I ain't think none of it. I waited a little while. I'm like, okay, well, baby, what time you think brunch is over? Okay, because I mean, breakfast then went from breakfast to brunch to now we in lunchtime. So what time you think we're gonna go to lunch? Okay, it's 1 o'clock. What we doing? So finally, he calls me about noon-ish. He told me he was on the highway going back home. Now, going back home is about a 2-hour drive for him. And I said, going back on the highway, he said, yeah. He said, I don't want to talk about it. He said, I'll tell you about it later. Well, anyway, I never heard from that man again. Okay. I never heard from him again. Okay. So apparently I was what you call ghosted. I didn't even know. Listen, I was ghosted. First time, that was literally the first time in my life I had been ghosted. Now, with that being said, I needed to understand why. Right. And so now I had to really, really sit with it. And I say, Yashika, what did you do to this man? Like, did he not like you? So at first I really thought that it was I had did something, or it wasn't me, or I mean, excuse me, I wasn't, because initially you think those things. You're like, okay, what was it about me that made him want to ghost me? But what I recognized that men had to tell me, and I don't know if this is true, I'm just telling what my squad told me, okay, my neighborhood, because this is hood parenting. So my people is called my neighborhood, okay? I'm gonna just tell y'all what my neighborhood told me. My neighborhood told me was he left, girl, because when you come to the room with him, you ain't do nothing. And so because you ain't do nothing, he was like, he ain't got time for this girl. He didn't spend all this money to come up here and everything. And you went, girl, he said you playing. He out. That's what my neighborhood told me, and I believe him, okay? I believe my neighborhood because it consisted more of men. Okay. And so they told me what really happened. They was like, girl, please. They was like, if he talking to you and he was talking all this is nice and I'm enjoying myself. And then later on, all of a sudden he ghosts you. That's because he was trying to, butter you up to let you know that he enjoyed you so y'all can go do the hanky panky. I was like, mm, clutch my pearls. I didn't know. I didn't know, y'all. I didn't know. But at the same time, in the beginning, I did want closure. I was like, he ain't have to ghost me. Right? He could have told me what it was that I did wrong. He could have told me what it was about me he didn't like. Okay, if it was something about me he didn't like, he could have told me. I mean, it wouldn't have made no difference because again, I still would have thought that I was amazing. I still would think that I'm amazing. I still would have thought that it was just his loss. I mean, there was nothing that he could have told me that would make me think anything less except I was great on that date. However, I still wanted to hear what he had to say, but I had to be okay with not having closure. I did. And when we talk about closure, before I close this particular episode out of the Resiliency Chair, I want to talk about closure when it comes to yourself as well. Because a lot of us, a lot of times, we don't give ourselves that apology neither. So when I talk about making peace with a past that won't apologize, I'm also talking about the things that we hold on when it comes to ourselves that we don't forgive ourselves for. We don't apologize to ourselves for not knowing, for not understanding, for not having the tools, not having the resources, not having the sense, not having the maturity, whatever it was that we had at that moment. We have to learn to leave those things back there and apologize to ourselves. And even if we don't, we have to learn to forgive ourselves for those things, right? Because when you forgive yourself for them, you're apologizing for them. You're saying, you know what, girl, I forgive you. You know what? I'm sorry that you went through this. And then you say to yourself, I forgive you. It's just that simple. right? You have to apologize to yourself, right? And say, you know what, I forgive you. Because we hold on to things that we've done in the past as well. And because of it, we feel like we're not worthy of certain things. And so we tolerate certain things because, okay? So, like I said, when I say people, places, and things, it's all of it. And it's just not us talking about other people to you. We have to learn to make peace with our past within ourselves as well, even when that past doesn't give us the apology that we need. Because sometimes we feel like the apology should be in an action, it should be in something. When in actuality, we're holding on to those things. We're still punishing ourselves for things because we haven't given ourselves and given ourselves closure for things that has happened. And so I don't know who this is for, but it was on my heart to say it. And I've been thinking about this all day. So I don't know, like I said, I don't know who this is for, but listen, when it comes to yourself, just like we want those closures and those things from other people, it may not come from them. It may not come from them. Sometimes you have to be okay with those things and go on. Sometimes you have to be okay and say, you know what? I'm not going to get closure. I'm not going to get an understanding. Even if they do tell me an understanding or give me some type of closure, right? It's 2:22 on the clock. It's one of those things where you still probably won't get what you need, right? You still won't be in a space where, well, you probably like, well, that was you. You broke up with me because of that. You ghost me because of that. You fired me. Why? Like a lot of times it doesn't even make sense, right? It doesn't even make sense. A lot of times this is you needing that. That is your ego needing that. Because if we don't get the closure, a lot of times we don't move on. We don't keep going on in life. Instead, we sit there. We're stuck. We waiting. And so I'm here to tell you, sometimes you're not going to get it, right? As a matter of fact, it's best to go in life and say, you know what? I have to set myself up that when it comes to certain things, I will never get an apology. And you're going to have to be okay with that. And then if you just so happen to get an apology for someone that something that happened to you or something that happened to you in the past, and some type of retribution or some type of apology is given to you, right? Then consider yourself blessed. Consider yourself lucky, but please don't sit around and wait for it, because if you do, you'll find yourself sitting there and time will be ticking. Time will be wasted. And I don't want that to be you. I don't want that to be you. So, in closing, you may never get the apology you deserve, but you can still create the peace you need. So stop waiting and start healing. But it's one thing I want to leave you that I want you to leave me a response down below in this comment of this video. Let me know. So here's a reflection question that I want to ask you. What's one thing you need to release even if an apology never comes? Is this something that you need to release within yourself, or something that someone has done to you, or a situation? What's one situation that you need to release even if an apology never comes? And so go ahead and drop a comment down below. Let me know, and share some of your experiences and tell me, how did it feel when you did realize that you were holding to something that you had never got closure from, and when you let it go, how did you feel? Because people out here need encouraging words. People out here need to know that we can get through a storm, right? There are a bright side to the other side of certain things. And so if you've been able to be one of them people, if you've been one of them people that have been through some things and you didn't get the apology you needed or the closure you needed, but yet you were able to keep going, share how you persevered. Tell below how you persevered through something like that. Because like I said, there's somebody out of there that would love to hear your story. Somebody out here that you can definitely motivate, encourage, and just let them know that there is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Okay. And so listen, again, if this is your first time here, thank you so much for tuning in, and leave me a comment, a like, a subscribe, or anything, or share this video out to someone that you feel may want to hear this. And also, you can catch me on Sundays, every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Hood Parenting Live. That's when I just go live again and I just talk and I just tell y'all all kind of good old stories, okay? All kind of good old stories from the hood. Again, my name is Yashika, and you're watching Hood Parenting, and I will catch you guys in the next live. Bye.